Today we're exposing what's actually inside the breakfast sausage most Americans eat every single week. Hard plastic, metal fragments, rubber pieces, bone shards, a preservative the FDA flagged as a possible carcinogen. All tied to brands you already recognize. 7 brands, real documentation, 3 clean options at the end. Stay for the home test, it takes 2 minutes and tells you everything. Let's get into it. Number 7 is Butterball Turkey Breakfast Sausage. This is the one that felt like the responsible choice. Lower fat. Turkey instead of pork. The Butterball name spent decades earning trust at Thanksgiving, and that trust traveled straight into the morning routine. The instinct behind reaching for it is completely reasonable. Turkey is lower in fat. That part is true. Here's what that trade actually looks like past the front of the package. Fat carries flavor. When a manufacturer removes it, they compensate somewhere else. In reduced fat processed meats, that compensation consistently shows up as sodium. And Butterball turkey sausage carries sodium levels that routinely exceed comparable pork products. The fat number on the label goes down. The sodium line quietly climbs. The shopper who switched for health reasons usually doesn't check the sodium column because the marketing never pointed them there. The formula also contains corn syrup, sodium phosphate, and the phrase natural flavors. That last one isn't really an ingredient description. It's a legal umbrella term that permits any number of compound flavor ingredients to exist in the product without individual disclosure. The regulation requires the phrase to appear. It doesn't require anything more. You switched to turkey because you were paying attention. The label was structured so that paying attention would feel like enough. Number 6 is Applegate Naturals. Owned by Hormel Foods. The green packaging, the natural food store, the brand you made a specific trip for because you'd already done your research and rejected the mainstream options. Applegate built its entire identity around the consumer who reads labels. That's a deliberate positioning strategy, which is exactly why the chemistry here deserves a closer look. The label says uncured. That claim is accurate in a narrow regulatory sense. No synthetic sodium nitrate was added. What was added is celery powder, a plant-derived ingredient that is naturally very high in nitrates. When celery powder is consumed, gut bacteria convert those plant nitrates into nitrites. The compound that process produces is chemically equivalent to synthetic sodium nitrite. The same substance the word uncured was written to communicate was absent. In 2019, Consumer Reports and the Center for Science in the Public Interest formally petitioned the USDA to stop allowing processed meats made with non-synthetic nitrate sources, like celery powder, to be labeled in ways that imply they're meaningfully different from conventionally cured meat. Their argument was that products sold with claims like uncured or no nitrates or nitrites added can still contain nitrates and nitrites at similar levels to traditionally cured products. The USDA requires a disclosure on the label, uncured, no nitrates or nitrites added, except those naturally occurring in celery powder. That line is there. Regulations don't specify how large it must appear relative to the word uncured, printed more prominently on the front. Then there's the ownership, and this is where it gets interesting. Applegate Naturals is owned by Hormel Foods, the same Hormel Foods that make Spam, one of the largest industrial meat processors in the United States. The brand built for the consumer trying to step outside the industrial food system has a parent company that is one of that system's largest players. That acquisition is publicly documented. It's not hidden. It's just not on the label. If you chose Applegate to avoid the mainstream industry, you're paying a premium for a brand owned by the mainstream industry. The label changes how people assess risk. That's why this one lands differently from a simple contamination story. It's not a factory accident. It's a trust architecture built around language that major consumer advocacy groups have argued is fundamentally misleading. We put together something for people who just want the answer without the research. The grocery and household cheat sheet. 250 brands, 40 categories, every aisle covered. If that sounds useful, links in the description. Number 5 is Hillshire Farm, owned by Tyson Foods. This is the one that looks like the upgrade. Nicer packaging, a slight price premium. The visual language implies something more carefully made. That implication is doing a lot of work. In September 2023, Hillshire Brands recalled approximately 15,876 pounds of ready-to-eat smoked sausage after consumer complaints led to findings that the product may have been contaminated with bone fragments. FSIS confirmed there had already been one reported oral injury linked to the product. The agency also warned that some of the sausage could still be sitting in consumers' refrigerators or freezers. Bone fragments are not a vague quality issue. A hard shard hidden inside smoked sausage can cut the gums, puncture soft tissue, chip a tooth, or scrape the throat on the way down. In the wrong bite, it can also trigger choking, especially for older adults, children, or anyone eating quickly and trusting the product to be exactly what it claims to be, ready to eat and safe. That's what makes Hillshire Farm's image problem particularly serious. A smoked sausage looks sealed, solid, finished. People slice it into pasta, skillet meals, or quick weeknight dinners without mentally flagging it as a hazard. When bone fragments show up inside a product like that, the damage isn't just physical. It destroys the consumer's most basic assumption, that a fully cooked, heavily processed sausage should at least be mechanically safe to chew. And then in September 2025, Tyson Foods, which owns Hillshire Farm, publicly announced it would also remove BHA, BHT, high fructose corn syrup, and titanium dioxide from all branded products, including Hillshire Farm, by the end of that year. Independent retail checks documented the product still carrying BHA and BHT on shelves well into 2026, after the deadline. After consumers had every reason to believe the update was done, Tyson made the announcement. Tyson owns the shelf. A contamination recall on one side, an unfulfilled ingredient removal promise on the other. That's not what most shoppers think they're paying a premium for. Number 4 is Jimmy Dean Fully Cooked Sausage Links, also owned by Tyson Foods. The Hotel Breakfast Buffet. The Office Catering Table. The continental breakfast at every workplace meeting. The product that defined what breakfast sausage tastes like for 3 generations of American consumers. In December 2018, approximately 29,028 pounds of Jimmy Dean Heat and Serve original sausage links were recalled after 5 consumers reported finding pieces of metal in the product. The USDA warned that some of the sausage could still be sitting in people's freezers. Metal contamination is not a vague quality issue. A hidden fragment can crack a tooth, cut the mouth, injure the throat, or trigger a choking emergency. And the real insult here is not just that the product was recalled, it's that consumers paid money specifically for speed and ease and got dragged into the kind of manufacturing failure they were never supposed to have to think about. That's the emotional core of Jimmy Dean. You're not just buying sausage, you're buying relief. 10 easier minutes in the morning. One less thing to manage before work or school drop-off. When that purchase turns out to contain metal, it stops feeling like a food defect. It feels like a betrayal of the exact promise the product was sold on. There is also the Tyson pattern worth naming directly, because you just heard it with Hillshire Farm and you're about to hear it again. In September 2025, the same month Tyson announced Hillshire Farm formula changes, Tyson also publicly announced it would remove BHA, BHT, and high fructose corn syrup from Jimmy Dean products before the end of that year. Independent retail documentation showed Jimmy Dean products still carrying BHT and corn syrup on store shelves well into 2026. The announcement was the story the press covered. The shelf was the story nobody followed back up on. The current formula carries BHT, under the same FDA reassessment as BHA. It also contains sodium phosphates, dextrose, and corn syrup, and it receives a Nova Group 4 classification. Maximum industrial intervention. One corporation. Multiple brands. Public announcements followed by documented shelf evidence that the formulas hadn't changed on schedule. Keep that in mind as we get to number 1. None of this is meant to make you feel like every breakfast choice you've ever made was wrong. Most people buying these products had no reason to look this closely. That's what this video is for. Keep going. The second half of this list is where the evidence gets more serious. Then we get to the 3 brands that actually held up. Number 3 is Bob Evans, owned by Post Holdings. 70 years of farmhouse identity, a founder's name above the door. Packaging built around family, tradition, and the image of honest American food. For a lot of households, Bob Evans has been on the breakfast table across multiple generations. The trust here runs deep, and it was built slowly. In October 2022, Bob Evans Farms recalled approximately 7,560 pounds of Italian pork sausage after consumer complaints led regulators to a possible contamination with thin blue rubber. The product had been shipped to retail locations nationwide. This one is particularly uncomfortable because of where Bob Evans shows up. This is breakfast sausage. It goes into the pan when people are half awake, when kids are getting ready for school, when coffee is still brewing, and when nobody is expecting the first meal of the day to carry a physical contamination risk. Foreign material in sausage has a direct clinical angle. If a consumer bites down on a rubber fragment hidden inside crumbled sausage, the result can be mouth pain, cuts to soft tissue, dental damage, throat irritation, or a choking episode, especially for children and older adults eating quickly without inspecting each bite. The whole breakfast sausage category depends on automatic trust. You brown it fast, stir it into gravy, fold it into a casserole, or serve it beside eggs without examining every piece. That's precisely why rubber contamination in a product like this hits harder than it might somewhere else. FSIS classified the recall as Class 2, meaning the health risk may be temporary or medically reversible rather than catastrophic in every case. But that framing is easy to misread. A rubber fragment doesn't have to trigger a national medical emergency to injure someone at the table. It just has to end up in the wrong bite, in the wrong mouth, during the most routine meal of the day. Then there is the ownership question. Bob Evans is owned by Post Holdings, a private equity-backed food conglomerate that also owns Egg Beaters, Crystal Farms, and Michelangelo's. When Post Holdings acquired the brand, the people making decisions about what goes inside the product changed. The farmhouse stayed on the packaging. The formula priority shifted to reflect a new ownership structure. The formula contains BHA and BHT. BHA has been on California's Proposition 65 known carcinogen list since 1990. The FDA's active safety reassessment opened in February 2026. The EU lists it as a potential endocrine disruptor. And multiple documented versions of the formula include mechanically separated chicken alongside pork. Mechanically separated meat is not a cut or a trim. It's produced by forcing what remains of an animal carcass, bones, cartilage, connective tissue, through a high-pressure sieve after every usable cut has already been removed. What comes through is a paste. That paste becomes a listed ingredient in the finished product. For a shopper choosing Bob Evans because the farmhouse imagery signals quality sourcing, that distinction matters. The name on the label belongs to the family that built the brand. The formula reflects the priorities of who's running it now. Number 2 is Johnsonville Original, the most purchased breakfast sausage brand in America by volume. More households are buying this right now than any other brand on this list. That scale alone is the reason the formula deserves this level of attention. In April 2025, Johnsonville recalled approximately 22,672 pounds of cheddar bratwurst after consumers reported finding hard plastic material inside the product. The USDA warned that more of the product could still be sitting in home refrigerators and freezers. We're not talking about a nutritional debate or an argument over sodium levels. We're talking about a physical hazard in a product built for casual, distracted eating. The kind of food you hand to kids at a picnic table or pile into buns during a game without inspecting every bite like a crime scene. That kind of food only works because people assume it's safe enough to eat on autopilot. Once a brand tied to that kind of ritual gets linked to hard plastic contamination, the whole experience changes. You're no longer thinking about flavor. You're thinking about what else could be inside the sausage besides meat and seasoning. Beyond the recall, the ingredient list carries 3 flagged additives. BHA, under active FDA reassessment since February 2026, on California's Proposition 65 list since 1990, flagged as a potential endocrine disruptor by the EU. Caramel coloring, a manufactured colorant added to standardize visual appearance across batches, making every link look identical regardless of what the actual meat looks like underneath. And propyl gallate, a synthetic antioxidant preservative that the Center for Science and the Public Interest has flagged for concerns including potential carcinogenicity in animal studies and potential endocrine disruption. The ingredient analysis organization Plain Food Safe evaluated Johnsonville Original using FDA regulatory status and CSPI chemical cuisine classifications and identified all three of those ingredients as flagged. The product also receives a Nova Group 4 ultra-processed classification. The Wisconsin family brand identity was built over decades. The hard plastic recall, the BHA, the propyl gallate, the caramel coloring. These are the decisions that identity was never designed to invite scrutiny of. The best-selling breakfast sausage in America carries a contamination recall and 3 flagged additives. That's what the back of the package says if you read it. If this breakdown is useful, a quick like helps this kind of research reach more people. 1 second, and it makes a real difference in who sees this. Number 1 is Jimmy Dean Original Pork Sausage Roll, owned by Tyson Foods. The paper tube. The one you press into patties on Sunday morning. The one in every holiday breakfast casserole. Jimmy Dean owns the American breakfast sausage identity more completely than any other single product in this category. That's not a marketing claim. It's a sales reality. And remember the Tyson pattern. Public announcement, unchanged shelf. This is where that pattern lands hardest. Jimmy Dean Original Pork Sausage Roll contains BHA, under active FDA safety reassessment as of February 2026, declared reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen by the National Toxicology Program, on California's Proposition 65 known carcinogen list since 1990. Flagged as a potential endocrine disruptor by the EU in the most purchased breakfast sausage product in the country. It also contains sodium phosphate, corn syrup, and natural flavors, legally permitting undisclosed compound flavor ingredients behind one generic term without further breakdown. Nova Group 4, Maximum Industrial Intervention. Tyson announced publicly in September 2025 it would remove these ingredients by year-end. The sausage roll with BHA in the ingredient list was on store shelves in 2026. Tyson's own public statement acknowledged the formula needed to change. The shelf didn't change on schedule, one corporation. 3 brands on this list: Hillshire Farm, Jimmy Dean Fully Cooked, and this sausage roll. A smoked sausage bone fragment recall, a metal contamination recall. Unfulfilled public ingredient removal promises across multiple brands. The Dean family name was built on one thing. The Tyson Foods industrial formula is something else entirely. The distance between those two lives exactly in the space between the front of the package and the back. Most people have never made that trip. The package was not designed to encourage it. Now you know what to avoid. Here's what actually held up. Before the brands, the benchmark. Real breakfast sausage has 4 ingredients: pork, salt, spices, water. Everything beyond those 4 is a manufacturing decision made for cost, shelf life, or texture compensation, not for your benefit. Corn syrup is a cost decision. Sodium phosphate is a moisture retention decision. BHA and BHT are shelf life decisions. Celery powder is a labeling decision. Every brand in this next section meets that 4-ingredient standard without workarounds and without anything that needs a second read to understand. Best option 3 is Malay's uncured pork sausage. If the celery powder conversation from the Applegate section stayed with you, Malay's is the direct answer to that specific concern. This isn't uncured in the celery powder sense. Malay's is genuinely free of nitrates, not plant-derived nitrates converted by gut bacteria, not a regulatory workaround. No nitrates at all. No BHA, no BHT, no corn syrup, no mechanically separated meat, no sodium phosphate. The ingredient list is pork, water, salt, and spices. That's the complete formula. Also certified gluten-free, paleo, and keto, available through online retailers and select natural food stores. After everything covered in this video, contamination recalls, unfulfilled removal promises, celery powder labeling gaps, Malay is the brand that actually delivers what the uncured label implies, without the chemistry running behind it. If you switch to an uncured product for nitrate concerns and landed on something made with celery powder, this is the one that closes that loop. Best option 2 is Jones Dairy Farm all-natural pork sausage. Family-owned since 1889, not acquired by private equity, not a division of Tyson, Smithfield, or Hormel. Independently operated for over a century, which at this scale in the American food industry is genuinely rare. Pork, water, salt and spices, nothing else. No BHA, no BHT, no corn syrup, no sodium phosphate, no natural flavors covering undisclosed chemistry. No contamination recalls in the documented record we covered today. The list takes about 4 seconds to read because there's nothing in it that needs a second look. Here's the practical part that matters most. Jones Dairy Farm is not a specialty item that requires a different store or a longer drive. It's stocked at Target, at Walmart, and at major grocery chains across the country. It's in the same refrigerated case as Johnsonville and Jimmy Dean and Bob Evans. The price difference is real but not dramatic. For most households looking for a clean swap without changing where they shop, this is the most accessible option in the mainstream category. It's been in your store the whole time. You just didn't have a reason to reach for it before today. Best option 1 is Peterson's Farm's no sugar added breakfast sausage. Peterson's addresses every concern raised in this video, including the ones that other natural label brands quietly sidestep. No antibiotics used in raising the animals. No added hormones. No sugar. No nitrates, and specifically not the celery powder kind. Peterson's formulates to avoid the loophole that allows uncured and natural branded products to deliver nitrates through a plant-derived source, while the label implies those compounds are absent. No BHA, no BHT. The pork is raised without gestation crates. Sourcing practices are documented and published, not summarized in a marketing paragraph, actually documented and available. Peterson's is available at Whole Foods and through online ordering. Of the 3 clean options, Peterson's goes furthest on transparency at every level. The sourcing, the nitrate question, the formula. It delivers what Applegate's label implied without the Hormel ownership in the background or the celery powder chemistry that makes the uncured claim narrower than it sounds. If you want the cleanest option with the clearest paper trail, this is the one. The home test. Run this tonight. Any sausage in your refrigerator or freezer, no equipment needed. Pull out a raw link or patty, set it in a cold, dry pan. No oil, no heat yet. Before you turn on the stove, look at the color, bright pink or deep red before any heat has touched it. That color isn't freshness, it's chemistry. Sodium nitrite, or celery powder derived nitrate, functions as a color fixative. It binds to the myoglobin in meat and locks the color in place regardless of temperature. That pink was set at the factory during processing. It'll look nearly identical after cooking as it does right now, raw and cold in the pan. The color is stability, engineered in, not a sign of quality. Fresh sausage made without nitrate or nitrite treatment is gray to light tan before cooking. It doesn't look vivid. And that's exactly the point. The bright pink color most consumers associate with fresh meat was produced by chemistry, because fresh unprocessed meat doesn't naturally maintain that color. Now turn on the heat. Real sausage browns because the myoglobin in fresh meat responds to temperature. The fat renders slowly. Cook several patties side by side, and you'll see natural variation, slight differences in browning speed, fat release, texture. Real meat is not a standardized formula. Industrial sausage releases liquid as it cooks, the moisture that sodium phosphate was holding inside during processing. It shrinks more than you'd expect, and it cooks to a strikingly uniform color across every piece in the pan, because every unit was manufactured to identical specifications. That visual consistency isn't a quality signal. It's a manufacturing signature. Pink before the pan is hot means the chemistry was already running before you turned on the stove. Multiple brands covered today have been linked to documented contamination recalls. Hard plastic in Johnsonville cheddar bratwurst. Thin blue rubber in Bob Evans Italian pork sausage. Metal fragments in Jimmy Dean heat and serve links. Bone fragments in Hillshire Farm smoked sausage. These are not vague quality debates. They are USDA documented events involving products that families were buying and eating on autopilot. At backyard cookouts, in morning skillets, in holiday casseroles, and at school breakfast tables. And underneath those contamination records sits a preservative problem that affects the broadest possible footprint. BHA is in the number 1, number 2, and number 3 brands on this avoid list. The FDA has it under active safety review. The National Toxicology Program has called it reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. California listed it as a known carcinogen in 1990, and it's in the most purchased breakfast sausage products in the country right now. Tyson Foods owns 3 of the 7 brands on this list. In September 2025, Tyson publicly committed to removing BHA, BHT, high fructose corn syrup, and titanium dioxide from its branded products by year-end. Independent retail documentation showed those ingredients still present on shelves in 2026. The announcement is on the record. So is the shelf. Both belong to the same company. 3 brands put pork, salt, and spices in the package and nothing else. They're in stores. They're findable. The price difference is smaller than most people assume once they're actually standing in the aisle with both packages in hand. The bigger gap isn't the price. It's the information. Most people reach for Johnsonville or Jimmy Dean or Bob Evans on autopilot because the name is familiar and the packaging feels trustworthy. The farmhouse, the founder's name, the word naturals, the green packaging. Those are stories. Carefully designed, professionally executed stories built to hold your attention on the front of the package while the real information sits quietly on the back. The ingredient list on the back is the document those stories were built to replace. You've been walking past that document your entire life. You just didn't know what you were looking at. Now you do. And if this changes which package you reach for next time, it's worth passing on to one person who still grabs the paper tube without turning it over. This has been Grocery Exposed. What's really in your cart?